Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're peeling back the layers on a figure we all think we know, Sir Isaac Newton, the man who gave us gravity, calculus, and the laws of motion. We picture him sitting under an apple tree, a genius struck by a moment of pure insight. But what if I told you the story is far more complex, and dare I say, much darker? The man we celebrate as the father of modern science was also a secretive alchemist, a ruthless enforcer, and a man obsessed with a hidden, mystical world. This isn't the Newton from your textbooks. This is the story of the asterisk, Isaac Newton, and it's a story you won't want to miss. Let's start by traveling back to 17th century England. It was a world teetering between the old age of magic and the new age of reason. And Isaac Newton, the ultimate symbol of that new age, had one foot planted firmly in both. While he was publicly writing his groundbreaking scientific masterpiece, the Principia Mathematica, he was privately spending countless hours and a significant portion of his life on another, much more secretive passion: alchemy. This wasn't just a casual hobby. Newton wrote over 1 million words on alchemy, far more than he ever wrote on physics or mathematics. He was searching for the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance believed to be capable of turning base metals like lead into pure gold and even granting eternal life. He conducted dangerous experiments in his secret laboratory, often working with highly toxic materials like mercury. In fact, analysis of his hair has shown dangerously high levels of mercury, which likely contributed to his later health problems and notorious mental breakdowns. Why was he so obsessed? For Newton, alchemy wasn't magic. It was the key to unlocking the deepest secrets of God and creation. He believed the universe was a divine cryptogram, and both science and alchemy were tools to decipher it. But his quest for hidden knowledge didn't stop there. Newton was also a deeply religious man, but not in the way you might think. He was a heretic. In secret, he rejected the core Christian doctrine of the Trinity, a belief so dangerous at the time that it could have led to his execution. He wrote extensively, in secret of course, arguing that the modern church had been corrupted. He spent decades trying to reconstruct what he believed was the original, pure form of Christianity. He learned Hebrew and studied ancient texts, not just for scientific knowledge, but to find hidden codes in the Bible. Newton believed the Bible was a prophetic roadmap, and he dedicated a huge amount of his intellectual energy to calculating the date of the apocalypse. Yes, the greatest scientist of his era was trying to predict the end of the world. One of his predictions, by the way, pointed to the year 2060. So, we've still got a few decades to see if he was right. This combination of radical science and radical theology made Newton an incredibly isolated figure. He was notoriously difficult, prone to fits of rage, and deeply paranoid. He had very few friends and never married. His rivalries were legendary, especially his bitter and lifelong feud with the German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz over who invented calculus. Newton used his powerful position in the scientific community to systematically destroy Leibniz's reputation, accusing him of plagiarism and ensuring that he, Newton, received sole credit. It was a brutal campaign that showed a side of Newton far from the image of the detached, noble scientist. He was ambitious, vindictive, and would stop at nothing to protect his legacy. Now, let's fast forward to 1696. Newton, already a scientific superstar, takes on a new and surprising role: Warden of the Royal Mint. You might think this was just a comfortable, honorary position for an esteemed public figure. You would be wrong. Newton took the job with ferocious intensity. London's currency at the time was in chaos. People were clipping silver from the edges of coins, devaluing the currency and threatening to collapse the economy. The government needed a bulldog, and they got one in Isaac Newton. He wasn't just a manager, he became a detective and a ruthless enforcer of the law. He went undercover, disguising himself to gather evidence in the shady taverns and dens of London's underworld. He personally interrogated and prosecuted counterfeiters and clippers. These weren't minor offenses, they were considered high treason, punishable by a gruesome public execution. Newton showed no mercy. He zealously pursued these criminals, sending dozens to their deaths. His most famous adversary was William Chaloner, a brilliant and charismatic master counterfeiter. Newton became obsessed with bringing him down, engaging in a dramatic cat-and-mouse game that ended with Chaloner's conviction and execution. The great scientist had become a fearsome lawman, driven by the same obsessive perfectionism that defined his scientific work. So how do we reconcile these two versions of Isaac Newton? The brilliant scientist who laid the foundations of our modern world, and the obsessive alchemist, the religious heretic, the ruthless avenger. The truth is, they weren't two different people. They were one and the same. For Newton, there was no separation between the physical world and the spiritual one. His pursuit of the laws of motion was driven by the same desire as his search for the philosopher S. Stone to understand the mind of God. He believed the universe operated according to a set of divine hidden rules, and whether he was studying the orbit of a planet, the chemical properties of Mercury, or the prophecies in the Bible, he was on the same quest. After his death, Newton's family was terrified of what his private papers might reveal. They locked away his alchemical and theological writings, deeming them not fit to be printed. For over 200 years, this side of Newton was hidden from the world, sanitizing his image into the purely rational figure we know today. It wasn't until the 20th century, when the economist John Maynard Keynes bought many of these papers at auction, that the world began to understand the true complexity of the man. Keynes famously described Newton not as the first of the age of reason, but as the last of the magicians, and maybe that's the most accurate description. Newton stood at a crossroads in history, with one foot in the world of ancient magic and the other stepping into the future of science. His genius wasn't that he was purely rational, it was that he could hold all these seemingly contradictory ideas in his mind at once. The obsessive, paranoid, and mystical parts of his personality weren't flaws that he overcame. They were the very engine of his incredible discoveries. He wasn't just a scientist, he was a detective, a theologian, a mystic, and an alchemist, all wrapped up in one brilliant, difficult, and profoundly human package. The story of Isaac Newton is a powerful reminder that the greatest minds are rarely simple, and the truth is always more fascinating than the legend. Thanks for sticking with me on this deep dive. What do you think is the most surprising part of Newton's hidden life? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed unraveling this historical mystery, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge what you think you know. We'll see you in the next video.